And that becomes this journey of faith, journey of walking towards Jesus and helping others to walk towards Jesus. And it's interesting, we just picked the early chapters of John's Gospel to start to explore this together. It's interesting how many of this is a kind of metaphor journey, but how many times there is a literal journey. Last week, Dan was sort of wondering whether we were trying to crowbar this subject into the topic of the feeding of the 5,000. There could be no debate this week. They're going on this journey. They're going across the Lake Galilee. And me and Cecilia and April, over the weekend, I had a family friend who was having a 50th birthday party in Sheffield. So we'd kind of grown up together, done loads of stuff together, our family, their family, and just had to be there for this party. But I knew that I also needed to be here on a Sunday morning. Felt the call to be, wanted to be here on the Sunday morning. So we're setting off on the M1, driving up to Sheffield. It's quite a long drive, about 3.5 hour drive, if you get the traffic right. If they decide not to close the M1 between junctions 11A and 10, as they chose to do last night. So we get to the end of the party, it's 10 p.m, and then we get in the car and we're driving back. So 2 a.m. this morning, we got back from Sheffield, and all the time, not all the time, because I was thinking about other things as well, but I've got this topic of turning alongside in my head, and I've this sort of, I was kind of bringing it to the Lord. I'm going on this journey, and for me, it was getting in the car, the hire car, and driving up to Sheffield, and then driving back, and that kind of stopping off at different service stations, and trying to kind of trying to welcome Jesus literally on that journey, spending a bit of time putting the worship on, spending a bit of time putting on podcasts from Bible Project before I put on my stupid sports podcasts and bored everyone else in the car with that. And in this, we could think about Danielle, who's going on a journey today. She's in the London Marathon today. So she's going on 26 and a bit mile journey today, which will finish up in the same spot pretty much that she left. But in this story, we've got the journey in a boat across the Lake of Galilee. And in the backdrop, we've got this aim of Jesus to help this motley crew of young people to develop and grow and become the people that he's going to be able to entrust the birth of the church to. And then beyond that, we've got this layer where John is writing his gospel so that whoever reads it goes on a journey of faith for themselves. He actually helpfully writes his aim for his gospel in John 20 and verse 30 and 31. He says, Jesus performed, so this is right near the end of the gospel, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So John, writing the gospel, it's like he's reaching out a hand and he's saying, come on this journey. Come on this journey with Jesus as well. But we come to find it's like there's a bit of art form to journeying well. Learning to welcome Jesus alongside us on the journey. We can be those on the back seat and complain, when are we nearly there yet? Or we can be those people who are saying, yeah, I want to go on this journey. And I thank you, Jesus, that you call me. And we can want to be those people who learn to do it well. And so each talk that we've been doing in this series, we've been highlighting a different way of discipleship, what it teaches us. And today we're thinking about the way of peace. And this is an incredibly relevant, hot topic for all of us today. we don't have to go through a conflict like Judith did to be in a situation where we feel like things around us can overwhelm us and we want to panic. We can just have that kind of nagging anxiety or worry about things. Mental Health Foundation, I went on their website, and I don't know how they've researched this, but they said in 2021, those aged 16 to 29 years were most likely to have some form of anxiety, 28% likely. 28%. In 2022-23, an average of 37.1% of women and 29.9% of men reported high levels of anxiety. It's about a third of people are reporting high levels of anxiety. So there's the desire for peace, but also the sense that people haven't got that peace. And so I thought we'd just start today by thinking, what does the way of peace look like? What do we learn from the Bible about what the way of peace looks like? Is there anything that we can learn today that can help us to step into this peace that Jesus promises us and wants us to have, wants us to inhabit? So I've got good news. New River Baptist Church, the elders, trustees have met up. We've decided we're going to send 2 people on a journey of peace today to explore whether either journey is actually the way of peace or not. So anyone here want to go on a journey? I mean, it's free. You just you're going to have to make a simple choice between one or 2 things. It's just wonderful as I look out of the room, the amount of trust that I'm just feeling from the room. You're all looking at me like, what's the catch? This is not going to end well. I've got a package here and I've got an envelope. Okay, two people. Right, Joyce wants to go on one. So, Joyce, you can be the first one to choose. Do you want the package or the envelope? Choose wisely. She's going for the package. Anyone else want to go on the journey? I've got an envelope. There's something in here for the journey. They're all like, okay, Caleb. Come on, Caleb. Right. Caleb, I'm going to let you open yours first, and then we'll get to Joyce's. So, Joyce, you can have a seat for a moment. We'll just do this with... Okay, so this is the first journey, and I want you to be thinking, does this sound to you like the way of peace? Okay? Does this sound to you like the way of peace? I like to see a young man who opens his gift carefully, doesn't wreck the packaging. All right, come over here, Caleb. Can we have let's get this. Right. What have you got inside your envelope?
I've got a ticket from London to Dubai.
Okay, you've got a ticket from London to Dubai. Turn it over. You've got some terms and conditions. What are the terms and conditions?
There's first class travel, champagne reception, Rolls Royce limousine collection drop off, apartment at Burj Khalifa for the duration of your stay, non-transferable. Make sure you pray regularly during your stay and witness the person in the next seat. Also remember to send a postcard to the bridge.
Yeah, wonderful. So thank you. You can have a seat. Keep hold of that. That's very valuable. So let's just recap. On the journey of peace that we're sending Caleb on, he is going to get picked up in a Rolls-Royce limousine, taken to the airport. Then when he gets to Dubai, they're going to pick him up. We'll have a different one arranged to pick you up. If you're wondering what your tithe goes towards, a large part of it is going towards this trip for Caleb. He then to fly with Emirates. You can't see this very well. You're just going to have to research this for yourself. This is what a first-class cabin. You all know this already because you'll regularly fly first class with Emirates. You get your whole little area there. You get all the goodies. You've got the fridge and everything stocked up for you. Caviar, champagne reception at the plane. Then you get to Dubai and you're going to stay here in the wonderful hotel. That's going to be your room. Does that sound like a good way of peace? Are you feeling peaceful, Caleb, about this trip? he's just he's not sure about the champagne or the caviar. Okay, first trip. It sounds peaceful to me. I could deal with that. Monday morning, the limousine picks me up. Right, Joyce, let's see what your one is. You might need the scissors to get into that. I don't know. Yeah, just rip it open. Yeah, just go for it. Right, Joyce, delve into your box. No, that's not relevant. I was reusing a box. Tell us what you've got. Maybe hold aloft different bits and pieces from your box.
Right. An old pair of sandals.
You got some sandals. That's good. They're going to come in handy for your journey.
A ball of string.
Yeah, kind of random but useful, right? Torch, yeah, flashlight, torch, yeah. That's going to come in handy because darkness is going to set in, and you're going to need that.
And a box of matches.
Box of matches. Yeah, you'll need that for when you do the cooking.
Okay. And a map of Israel and surroundings.
Yeah, so you've got a map. So this is the second option. I'm going to also add, here you go, you can have a bottle of water. That'll probably come in really handy. I'm also going to give you Mark's Gospel. That might come in handy, although we're in John today, so maybe John's Gospel would be more relevant. Can we go to the next slide, please, Xinghao? So that's what we've got. So this is the second one. And you'll probably recognize that this, more often than not, the disciples weren't traveling first class, were they? They were on foot. They were borrowing someone's boat and traveling across Lake Galilee. And for us as disciples, journeying alongside Jesus is rarely first class travel. What we get invited into is not the previous slide with all the limousine and the first class stay in a posh hotel in Dubai. Our travel is going to be frequently misunderstood by others and even opposed. The travel companions, we don't get to choose them. They're the other people who are going on this journey with us, following Jesus as his disciple. The journey is often on foot, across difficult terrain. The road is narrow, according to Jesus, and the gate is small, Matthew 7, verse 14. There is much to concern us as we journey. And the very fact that we're traveling with Jesus likely from time to time to get us into trouble. That was the case for Jesus' disciples. Yet, I believe we're also going to find that this is the way of peace. The very best way to live. Our destination or goal is glorious. So it kind of begs the question, how, what we're asked to do as disciples is difficult, across rough terrain, with people not necessarily liking what we're doing, how can that also be the way of peace? So let's get into the Bible passage for today. And maybe just with the people around you, let's think firstly, what in this story had the potential to rob the disciples of their peace? What in this story that we've just been reading could lead the disciples to lack peace, to not have peace. Just with the people around you, just have a look at the verses that we read and just ask that question: what could we describe in the story so far that could want to take away the disciples' peace? Just have a quick discussion about that, and we'll look at it together. And then we're going to get onto the good news about what does bring peace. All right. Should we come back together? Let's see what we noticed in the passage. Here are a few things that occurred to me. Verse 16. The disciples are really keen to get back, to leave the place where they are before the night is over. And it just made me wonder, maybe it's because they haven't actually got anywhere to stay where they'd travelled to. They needed to get back to where they were going to stay. And it just made me think just the practicalities of their existence. Often it's those kind of practical considerations for us, isn't it, that can cause us to have anxiety. What's going to be provided? Is there going to be enough? Am I going to have somewhere to stay? How am I going to get there? Who's going to come with me? What are we going to have to eat? Those kind of practical considerations. Verse 17 strikes me, the disciples really got specific instructions at this point in time. They haven't got Jesus with them. Jesus has left them. Jesus has fed the 5,000 in the previous story. He's then gone away from them to be with Father, presumably, to get away from the crowds. And now here they are. it's nearing the end of the day, what do? And as Christians, we don't have a blueprint of everything that we're supposed to do for Jesus at every point through our life. It's like we have to just act out what we feel carries integrity, what we feel is a good response to what we know about Jesus, to what we know about how he's called us. And in those moments, Jesus isn't there waiting for us to trip up and make a mistake and go, there, I told you couldn't do it. You're a terrible disciple. I actually wonder in this story, given Jesus' bigger aim to try and develop the disciples, to grow them, to see them develop, maybe part of the reason he goes away from them is to be with Father, but maybe part of the reason is he knows they need these moments on their own without him to really develop, to mess things up, to be in a vulnerable situation, so really can know that Jesus with them is enough. A couple of other things I noticed that are fairly straightforward. It's late and it's getting dark. Don't like it, do you? If you're out on your own, I was hearing from Zach Norwich about climbing Scarfell and not coming back and down till it was dark. And apparently Granny was calling for the mountain rescue team and all this. It sounded quite dramatic. We don't like it when we're in that situation. We feel like it's getting beyond our control. Sometimes it can feel like that in life. We can feel like we had clarity, but now that clarity's gone. We could see the way ahead, but now we can't see. Makes us feel nervous. They didn't have Jesus with them. Jesus knew absolutely what to do. Sometimes miraculously would come up with the answers, like in the feeding of the 5,000. But he's not there. And sometimes for us as Christians, we feel Jesus so close to us. We could do anything. But sometimes we feel like he's so far away from us. How do we deal with those situations without getting anxious and nervous, panicking? Then as the story develops, they're in a storm. Can we have if you didn't know, this is Google Maps. The Sea of Galilee, 13 miles long, 6 miles wide, but it's like a basin. The actual lake itself is 600 feet below sea level, but it's surrounded by these mountains and hills that on one side are 2,000 feet above sea level, on the other side are 4,000 feet above. And what that means is you get these storms that come off the mountains, the hills, and very quickly blow up on the sea. And it made it treacherous, it made it dangerous if you were caught in one of these. And they think the disciples were trying to get from up here back over there. They would have heard and known the stories, having grown up in the area. People who literally lost their lives in the lake. And then, verse 19, Jesus starts doing freaky stuff. They ain't never seen no one walk across a lake. I mean, they're already agitated because of the storm. And then they look out and they can see this figure walking towards them. I would be afraid at that point. Can we go back to the previous slide, Yinghao, please? And then the last thing that I think can make them feel nervous is they've got a crowd stalking them. The crowd have been in Tiberias. cross over to where Jesus has fed the 5,000, realize that he's not there anymore. So they've got this crowd that they just can't get away from. Okay, with your neighbour, what do we learn about how the disciples find peace in this story? Just have a quick conversation about that. We'll look at that together. And then we'll finish and we'll pray. Okay, let's come back. Let's come back together. There are, if we had more time, it would be really interesting to hear the comments from the room, because I think there are many insights that we could bring to bear on these verses and how the disciples, actually next slide please, Yinghao, how they come to that place of peace. But here's a few things that I noticed. They come to learn that Jesus, although he's apart from them at that point, he's not forsaken them. You can imagine them in their mind. Where's Jesus gone? If only Jesus was with us, this would be all right. We're in this storm. We're possibly going to die. Where is Jesus? Has he given up on us? What's he doing? You know, that negative voice that always picks up on the worst case scenario in our head. when we're in those moments of stress. You could see that with the disciples, but Jesus has not forsaken them. And I want to say today, if you're in a place today where you feel like Jesus is far from you, or you're far from Jesus, He's not forsaken you. He will always be there for you. He will always step in when you need it. He gives us grace sufficient for each day. They find peace, don't they, when Jesus appears on the scene. When they know that Jesus is with them. When they know that Jesus has got them. And Jesus tells them as he appears, I think in the NIV it says, it is I, don't be afraid. But the Greek in that point is leaning on the Hebrew words, literally, I am. Do you remember the name they gave to God in the Old Testament? Yahweh. I am amming. It was that revelation of God to Moses in the burning bush. Same message. Don't be afraid, Moses, for I'm calling my people out of captivity. Now Jesus is saying, that's me. I am God. I'm the Son of God. Because of who I am, don't be afraid. Jesus counsels us not to worry, but the not worrying bit, I think, comes about as we come to realize who Jesus really is and his authority over the storm. And interestingly, it says in the text, when Jesus came into the boat, they appeared at their destination. I wonder if John's also playing here. What's the real destination for the disciples that day? It's that moment of believing that Jesus is the Son of God. That's the real destination. That's what Jesus wants for us. A couple of things from the disciples that can help them. We'll pray. I think some of their posture, their attitude, helps them into the peace. And I think we can learn from that as well. They are people who are seeking Jesus. To Jesus. They've put all their eggs in that basket of trusting Jesus. They're dependent upon Jesus. And they're welcoming Jesus in their lives into the boat. And I think if you're interested today in stepping in further into the peace that God wants for you in your life, I think picking up on some of these themes. Seek the Lord. Put all your hope in him, all your trust in him. Depend on him. Welcome him. And that peace will become more and more of a reality. I'm going to invite the worship team to come up. I know as I sort of share these words, as we look at this subject today, there's very likely to be some people in the room. You feel, for whatever reason, that you're in the middle of a storm at the moment. Could be to do with relationships with other people. Could be to do with what's going on in your mind, in your heart, in your emotions over a particular circumstance, particular situation. I believe that Jesus wants us to know today that he comes to us in the storm. And he has authority over the storm. Let's pray, and I'm going to read out to you. There are actually some words that my mum wrote to me and Celia when we got married. Many say life's river runs far too deep. It can wash you away. But you know our God is mighty to keep those who love him. And we have a God who rules over the flood, and his promise is still the same today. Every step he's with you. The depths won't overflow you. So stand upon the stepping stones he's made. In your imagination now, as best you know how, just encourage you to picture Jesus coming to you today. Coming into the boat of your life today. With authority over the storm. With that revelation that he is the Son of God. He's the one who's got authority over the chaotic waters of life. Jesus, help us to see you today and help us to receive your peace. Amen.